In this video, I'm going to go over how you can get started with EventSystemX. I'm going to make a little scene where we're going to have a cube, and the cube's going to move around based off WASD, and you're going to try to collect some spheres, which are going to increase your score. To start off, normally what you would do is you'd go to the asset store and you'd import the package. If you go to the website, it'll tell you to, it'll start up Unity, which will open up a little window in here, which will be the asset store again, and then you can download and import it. Once you import it, this is the project that you'll end up having imported into it. All you really need is this EventSystemX DLL file. If you want to use the source code's in the zip file. You can extract it and use it from there. This is a Visual Studio project made to make this. So to start off, I'm gonna go into here. Let's see, which example? From scratch. Okay, let's make a cube. Cube, I'm gonna add a rigid body to it and put it at 0. I'm also gonna put the camera under it, so when it moves around, the camera moves with it, and adjust the camera a bit. And change the lighting because I want more shading. Okay. I'm also going to create a sphere. Let's make it smaller. Move it. Yeah, I'll only make one sphere for now because I'll add a script to it and can just copy paste it later. Okay, so let's make a script for the movement. Cube movement. Open up Visual Studio. Hey, here's our script, cube movement. Now, first thing I'm going to need are 4 events. One for W, one for A, one for S, and one for D. Clean this up a bit. Let's say private event move forward, move backwards, move left, and move right. I probably don't actually need these instances here, but I'll keep them there for reference. Move forward equals new EventX. Going to call this, this will be move forward. And I'll give it its trigger right here. Oh. Yeah, now those are events. So as you see here, we have this Boolean function which says returns if the key W is being pressed down. That'll be the trigger. As you can see, trigger. And the other one, this is going to be our ID. You can actually set the ID to an object, so it doesn't have to be a string. It can be an integer. It can be whatever you want. I'm going to copy paste this 4 times. Move backwards. Move left, not right. And move right. This will be S. This will be A. This will be D. Okay. I'm also going to need to add these to the EventManagerControllerX dot add event. Now the channel ID, normally I just throw 0 here because it's just easy. If you're not dealing with the channels, you can just do whatever. The channel IDs allow you to do some customization with how things are triggered. Check some of the other examples and some of the documentation on that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. It's a little bit of a weird concept, but then we have, now we're going to add move forward, move backwards, move left, and move right. Alright, so what this is going to do is add them to the controller so they can be automatically fired. Create the events with the inputs as their triggers. So what this is doing is it's adding it to the controller, which will say it'll check this event and it'll handle checking its trigger each update, and say if it's triggered, then it'll fire the events that are the listeners that are listening to that event. I'm going to add some listeners in a bit, but first we need to actually have the event manager controller on this scene. We don't need to bother with any of the settings. This is for if you're switching scenes. Since if you have a new event manager controller in that scene, this can be used to preserve the events on the previous one. And what that you might want to do with that is, say you have lots of scenes going on, you might want to just preserve both entering and exit, and then only set up your events if the events don't exist. That way your events persist over all the scenes, and then you can just add and remove listeners as you'd like. So now we have, I just saved it, we have the EventManagerControllerX, and I can't actually show you it doing anything until I make it do something. So let's do, I'm actually going to add a bool. I'm going to say forward, backwards, left, and right. Now I'm going to say move forwards dot register and I can either add a listener or I can add the function right here, which will be forward equals true. So when this forward is triggered, the forward event will broadcast this call. The other way I could have done this is EventListenerX forward listener equals new EventListenerX, and then you can see there's a callback, which is that same thing I'm passing in there. And I can even give it a game object, or I can give it tags, I can give it a name, a game, I can give it different identifiers that can be used to find this event listener on the event. I'll actually move this function up to here, and I'll register that instead. And what this is useful for is, let's say you have two ways you can move forward, the arrow key and the W key. You can put the same listener across both of them, and you don't have to recreate it. And that way, let's say you so like in World of Warcraft, you have two hotkeys for each action. What I'm thinking here is that this is your action, and you can register it to your hotkey, which is the move forward. That way, if you have two move forwards, you can remap them independently. I'm not gonna do that here probably, but since that gets a little bit more advanced, and it also kind of requires some UI stuff if you want to make it look nice. So move backwards dot register backwards equals true. What I'm doing here is, in the fixed update, I'm going to check these values, and if they're true, I'm going to act on them, and then I'm going to set them to false. I can just copy paste this. And now there's also an even quicker way. So 3 lines per input, 4 I guess if you count that. There's actually a keyboard helper, which I could have just done register key, key code W forward equals true, and this would have done the same thing. This is like just a quick helper that lets you deal with keys. It actually returns an event listener, so if you wanted to find the event, in case you wanted to like remap it, you have to do something like keyboard helper.get key event and key code W, and that'll get the event for you. But we don't need that right now. So add the listeners so that they are fired when the event is triggered. So now this will work. This will set these bools in here. I could show you in the debugger, but it'd be more interesting if I actually just do it. So move forward, and let's say move backward, and let's say backwards. Forward equals false, backwards equals false, left equals false, and right equals false. So if you're hitting forward but you're not hitting backwards, else if you're hitting backwards but you're not hitting forwards, we'll do this dot transform dot position let's get the let's do it on the rigid body. I have a rigid body on it. Let's do it that way. Rigid body I'm just going to cache it like that. I'm not even sure you actually need to do that anymore. I think they optimized get component, so it's not really an issue, but I'll do it anyway. Better safe than sorry. Okay. Move position, this dot transform dot position plus vector free thought forward times time dot delta time times speed. This one I'm just going to do the speed of the cube when moving. And this one will be negative. Now you might realize that once I add in the left and right, you can actually beat the speed by going forward and left. So I'm going to do, actually going to just copy paste this. Going to do left, right, and right, and left. So left, right. In fact, I'm going to back. So you can either do left or right, and you can either do forward or back. And the way I have it set up is if you do forward and back and you do left and right, you'll go faster than speed. A solution to that is to check both, and then you essentially like create a vector, normalize it, multiply it by the speed, but it's not really a big deal. Let's see if this actually works. So first, go to my cube, turn off gravity. I'm going to freeze the rotation because I don't want it freaking out. Cube movement. Let's see. W. Oh. Look at that. Look at that. I'm hitting the A key. I'm hitting the D key. I'm hitting the S key. I'm hitting the other key. Oh. Gotta remove that collider. Well, actually, I gotta set it to an is trigger. And let's set the cube movement speed way faster than that because that's super slow. There we go. Oh, I think I messed something up. I'm hitting both A and W and it's not doing something. Let's check that out. So I hit W, but then I hit A. Oh, I think I know what's up, but I'm not really gonna bother solving it. It's not really an issue. Okay, let's do the. So now we're gonna need a score value that whenever the whenever you run into a sphere, it's going to increase your score. So let's create a, where's from scratch folder? From scratch. Let's create a ScoreTracker. ScoreTracker. Complete side note, I found out you could actually edit the default template. So I added all these regions. Don't really need it for this though. Model behavior. Gonna take a public text element, which is going to be Unity text. This is going to be the score text that I'm going to update. Void start. I'm going to create an event. Going to create an EventX. EventX equals, or let's call it score event equals new EventX. I'm not actually going to, I'm going to give it an ID, score increase. And I'm going to let's see, what do I want to do? I want to score event dot register integer. I want to register a function that takes an integer and it does this plus equals to x. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a listener which has a callback that takes a value, and then I'm also giving it a function which will provide that value. This value is going to just, every time you call it, the value is going to be given 1 by default. But if you pass it in an integer, when you do a broadcast, you can pass it in a different value so you can increase your score by other values. So this lets you, this is the default function, the default that says the value that you're going to get passed in is 1 by default. Normally that would have actually defaulted to 0 because it defaults to default whatever the value. So classes would be null, integers and like floats and stuff would be 0. And so I'll show you EventCollectionX. Add event to static score event. What this is a static event collection. Since this doesn't have a trigger, there's not going to be a condition that says when this is ready to fire. I'm going to use the EventCollectionX, which is just a static collection of events that you can put stuff there, and then you can find it there, just like the manager, except the manager updates and checks those triggers. This doesn't. So if you put a trigger on this event, If you put it in here, it's not going to do anything. You have to put it in that other controller. So that should be good enough for that. Let's add that to the scene. Add a UI text element. Set that to like 90. Oh, it's not big enough. Whatever. Yeah, that's good enough. Let's make it white. In fact, I'm just going to put the score increase right here. ScoreTracker. Boop. Okay. And with ScoreTracker, also going to have a void update. It's going to say score.text equals score value toString, because it's an integer and I'm not concatenating it, so I have to do toString. Now, finally, I need an event. I need something for the sphere. So SphereScoreHitter. I know I'm really creative with the names. Model behavior. This will be a, I'm gonna need an, since it's a trigger, I'm gonna need an on trigger enter collider C. Let's get rid of this namespace. I don't need that. Yeah, I don't need that namespace. Alright. So this is gonna be an on trigger when the sphere gets hit. Since I know the only thing that's going to be moving around is my player, I'm not going to bother like doing checks for that. But I can do EventCollectionX dot get event from static score increase dot broadcast. In fact, I'm going to do just to show off that other thing. So this by default is gonna broadcast this event, which will trigger that listener with that 1 value, because that listener itself has that specific 1 value. I'm gonna make it a int score defaulted to 1. I'm actually gonna broadcast that. So that's actually, now it's gonna broadcast an integer. If you actually had other things listening to this event score increase and they didn't take an integer, this broadcast wouldn't actually hit them, because this broadcast is actually now only broadcasting to integer listeners. But that should be it actually. Let's see. Oh, one more thing. Don't need it to go to infinity. So sphere SphereScoreHitter. Let's see what happens. Oh, sphere's gone. Okay, and now I'm gonna do what I said I was gonna do. I'm gonna copy paste this. Okay, like Pac-Man. And the last one I'm gonna set to 10. So now you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 20. And that was pretty simple. To just reiterate, we've got the events for the movement are right here. The events for this is the actual movement being done in our fixed update. So here we're saying like the input has been received so that we can work on it in here. The score tracker event is just that score increase, and I added it to that collection. And the sphere hitter is just, hey, get me the event from here. this from static, and it's kind of weird, but you can actually do var equals new EventCollectionX and dot add event or get event. So you can actually instantiate instances of it, but there's also a static instance of it, which is actually located. This is located here, and you can actually set that if you want. But that's it. Now this is, I guess it's a game. Let's see if I can do. Let's see this. No, not here. Here. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna say if score value is equal to 20, I'm going to say input remapper, or no, input mapper dot remap pressed event collection, no, event manager controller get event move forward, and I don't need a callback. Also, so what this is gonna now do, this is, you'd never do this, but what this is gonna now do is that remapper is going to trigger a remapping. Oh, missed them. Trigger a remapping as soon as I hit 20, which I know is gonna happen here. Oh wait, this is gonna actually be really hard, because as soon as I hit the down button, it's gonna remap forward to down. Oh, nope. Okay, so remapping move forward. I'm gonna remap it to the space button. So now I hit space. You can notice it's way louder, my space bar, and it's moving me forward. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoy. Good luck. Ask me any questions if you have any.